So I just want to say a quick thank you to the world of COVID for giving me an extra 10 days off work recently, even though I'm perfectly fine. Not going to argue, but that's given me plenty of spare time to do some polishing, some cleaning, some scrubbing, and ready to get this homeless BMX back together again. It's a lovely sunny day. Let's go. All in, took about 45 minutes to do, and there really is something therapeutic about putting a bike from scratch back together again. It then did take about an hour to sort out the brakes and the chain and the... I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, so let's have a look. But I'm going to break it down in 3 parts. The good, the bad, and then the sentimental. Let's have a look. So let's start with the good. Well, come on. It's a 96 homeless PORNSTAR in its original form and condition. Doesn't get much better than that, does it? I like the teal grips, the ODI long necks. I think they've gone on quite nice. They're exactly the same colour as the chain disc. I don't know if you can see that. I love the DK stem. They were good back in the day, and I think they've aged perfectly. I think I need to speak to him, but I think that's one of those GT sealed hubs on the back. They're pretty cool. I had one of them back in the day. And the actual good bits on the bike, 2 things. Call me out if I'm wrong on any of this, but I think that's the largest gussets in mid-school BMXing. Look how long that is. It's what, 4 inches long? It's huge. And the second bit is this detailing under here, which all the homeless bikes had. Can you see that? The H, where it's sort of reversed etched into the tube where it's capped. Love that, absolutely love that. That detailing is just wonderful from the mid-90s. But that then does bring me on to the bad, and I can't believe how terrible the welding is on this bike. I've got a Mac, a homeless Mac, in my storage, and when I first got that, the welding was so bad, I actually assumed that someone had just split it in half and Mr. Tate had welded it up in DT Club. But looking at the weld on this, I think it was just a quality control thing with the homeless bikes. I mean, especially if you compare that to what everything gets compared to against a 96 S&M dirt bike, which that was perfectly just manufactured to such a high level, even though this probably retailed at about 220 quid, so even more expensive than what a dirt bike was back in the day. And then the other thing on the bad list is down here. So when I first stripped it apart, I noticed that someone had bashed the granny, absolutely smashed the granny out of that rear seat stay there. Don't know if you can see it. And I thought, that looks like that's probably had the chain foul on it and someone's just smashed it with a hammer. But what I think it turns out is that it's actually the cog, the freewheel. The freewheel was completely fouling on the frame itself. So how bad of a design is that? So much so that, can you see the spaces in there? I had to space it out by about 5mm just to stop it from rubbing. So that's a terrible design. So if you want the Spitfires go over. And then the other bad bit, which is why it took so long, was there's just no room down in that space there, the gap between the wheel and the seat tube. It's tiny, and it made me laugh because when I stripped it, I noticed, you see that rim? That's where the U-brake had been digging into the cog for all those years. And I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to put that back together and have that's just not going to pass my quality control. But it took me ages to get the balance between the wheel being in enough, out enough, and the brake being tight enough and positioned right so that it functioned but wouldn't hit the cog. So two pretty big design flaws there, but hey, what a bike. And then lastly, the sentimental aspect of this bike. So I spoke to Rob, the guy I got it off last night, and there was two things. First thing was those forks, ditch forks, pretty industry standard good forks. And when I stripped it, I noticed just how bent they were. So I messaged Rob and said, mate, what happened to those forks? And he simply replied with, got them like that from Starley. And it all made sense as soon as he said that. Now, I'm sure every gang had it back in the day. So Starley was the kid who just had the capacity to just completely destroy stuff. And I mean, we were 15 at the time, so can you imagine a 15-year-old kid destroying a set of ditch forks? It's pretty impressive. But I was saying that, I do remember him literally shearing a one-piece crank in half. But yeah, he was the gov. Anyway, and secondly, the most important part is probably this saddle here, which doesn't look like anything, and at some point it probably has come off of a khaki old road bike. But it turns out, and I had it confirmed last night, that come off of a bike of a very good friend of ours who sadly passed away with a brain tumour a few years back. So yeah, there's a lot of sentimental emotion in this bike now. And I'm just glad I get to keep it. And yeah, who wouldn't want a 96 Homer's PORNSTAR in their secret BMX collection? And I just wanted to wrap this video up just by saying this. So quite often I get people come around to our house and I go, man, why have you got a garage full of children's bikes? I'm like, you see them as children's bikes, but to me I see them as memories. I almost see them as monuments from a past. I almost see them as pieces of art, in fact, from back in the day where life was good. And there's almost something sentimental to be sort of attached to bikes like this, and I think it's right to do so. Because if you've watched this, no doubt you have been a BMX rider at some point, and you know that there's something free, there's something that you can't really even sort of explain about being a kid and just going out on your BMX. And yeah, like I say, to me, this bike literally is an embodiment of some of the happiest moments in my life. So yeah. Got a bit wet there, but it's the truth. Thanks for watching.